What's up, guys? Welcome to another afternoon, evening home theater hangout with yours truly, Shane. And we got Digital Don back here. We got Kenny from RBH representing, and Steve from Cambridge Audio. What's up, Steve?
How are y'all doing tonight?
Very good, very good, very good. We are going to be discussing, we're going to be talking about demo tracks for your 2-channel setup. I know Kenny and Steve, they deal with music every day, all day long. That's like their job. Whereas me and Don, we just futz around and mess around with home theater stuff and surround sound. And
I listen to music every day. I don't know what you're talking about.
And then we vape. You know, well, I don't vape, Don vapes.
I don't get in their mind. I don't want to offend anybody.
So we're going to talk about some demo music tracks to test your 2-channel systems with. And first off, let's just talk about really quick on my 2-channel setup. Right now, I'm kind of rocking the Perlisten in my living room system, the Perlisten R5Ts with the Evo, Cambridge Audio Evo 150, which Digital Don also has some experience with. Specs wise, that thing puts out 200 watts per channel, Steve?
150 a channel in the 8 ohms, 220 and 4.
Oh, hence the Evo 150. Okay. So 150 watts per channel. And yeah, this little thing rocks. There's going to be a video coming up pretty soon once I wrap it up over on Audioholics. I did a comparison with that and the Hi-Fi Rose RS520, which does cost a little bit more than the Evo, but I don't want to spoil it. So I'm not going to spoil it, but there's a interesting.
It could be a spoiler.
That could be a spoiler. But that's been my system as of late. The Perlistens and the listen. I would use some RBH speakers. I just don't have any RBH speakers in my 2-channel setup right now. So I'm rolling with the Perlistens. Sorry, Kenny, but that's what's been going on. And then Don just got booted. And I'm using a Qobuz as well to stream all the music.
Nice.
What does your system consist of, Kenny, for your 2-channel setup?
Oh, my system is RBH speakers. I got 8 12-inch subs in sealed enclosures and a couple of custom 61s that I put together at the factory. And not to brag at all, but I did all the custom wiring, and it's a fully active system with amps I chose as well and DACs I chose. So it's pretty wild.
Yeah, those crazy subs. Why doesn't RBH make those subs?
We actually are coming out with a better version of them because
like that,
Shane,
like
similar, yeah. So I invited Shane over to listen to my stack, and he liked them so much he decided to perfect the design. So that's coming soon. We actually sold the first 2 to one of Dream Media's customers, and he's thrilled with them.
Well. I would think. How tall is that stack of subs?
System there, Kenny. Can you say badass on podcast? I don't know if you can.
What's that?
Way to go.
What did I say?
Well, what do you got on your system, Steve?
Well, I'm pretty simple right now. I'm running a pair of Sonus Faber Olympica Nova 3s.
Fancy.
Off-low. And hey, the Evo 150 right now.
Oh.
My Evo 150 is breaking them on in. I'm about to put monoblocks on them. So I'm going to put an NQ and then put monoblocks on them. But
Edge M's?
It was a 4-ohm impedance speaker, and there was a lot of people telling me that you wouldn't be able to run it off of a Evo 150, so I thought I'd give it a shot.
We know
it works. Yeah. The Perlistens are 4 ohms too. It rocks, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great.
It sounds really good, right? You know, and you know, I'm a 2-channel guy, right? So I watch movies in 2-channel. You know?
Yeah. We established that the last time. We established that last time we were talking about movies, and you only had 2 channels.
I got a nice undisconnected speaker for the center channel that, when people go, man, that center channel looks good. It sounds great there. And I go, yeah, here, why don't you hold on to it? Because if you tell them you're listening in 2-channel only, they think it's 2-channel, but
Yep. Oh, sorry. So it's got some good imaging, those Olympic Novas. Did you get the, is it Wenge on the top, right?
yes.
And leather wrapped?
Yes.
Yeah,
They're nice.
fancy.
I like them.
Corinthian.
Very fancy. Hey, guys, make sure you check out my Sonus Faber McIntosh video tour on the channel. It's called McIntosh Home Theater Tour. Okay. Don, what do you have? What you got going on your system there?
I'm using the Evo 150 with a pair of Dolly Epicon 6s, which are 5 ohm, relatively hard to drive speaker and drives the shit out of them, dude. What, am I supposed to say that? No, it does a great job.
Oh, yeah.
Fancy. Very fancy. All right, well, let's go. So Kenny, when you're testing out your speakers in the lab over there at RBH, what are the procedures like, and what kind of music are you guys bumping over there? Like, what are your test tracks, and why do you pick these tracks for your music, demo sessions?
Well, one that we do a lot for bass, testing out the bass on a subwoofer is Queen Mary by Francine 13. That's got one of the hardest hitting bass notes of any song. I've had a hard time finding one that hits harder, and Shane's been using it a lot lately to test, subwoofers and find their limits. And so we tune the DSP to.
Wait, somebody's got their speaker on because I keep hearing
Yeah.
a double.
Steve?
But no, so that song is really good for testing out the limits of a subwoofer and seeing, because it will make the driver have maximum excursion.
What was the name of that again?
Queen Mary by Francine 13.
Francine 13. What kind of music is that?
It's kind of poppy. It's got a lot of cool imaging things. It's more of like a hi-fi song rather than a radio song.
Pop song, you mean?
Yeah.
Some of the pop music now is incredibly well recorded.
Yeah.
Wait, are you talking about Taylor Swift?
No.
I will say, for listening to bass, there's a, to get a little bit more modern. Today I was listening to in the car on the way over, and I was like, oh, this is probably really a good track to test out bass. Just crazy amounts of bass. Kanye West's Monster off of his, I forgot what album it is. I know it's Red. And it's got like Jay-Z, Nicki Minaj, Kanye's on it, and I think somebody else is on there as well. But it's just like just bass, just straight bass, start to finish. And I was like, oh, I should probably go home, bump these on my Per-Listens, and also on my Golden Ears, and then also on my Atlantic Technologies, and also my Elec speakers I have as well. All that I'm testing out at the same time. And I have Martin Logan on wall speakers I'm also testing out as well, which I think would be awesome sounding. Also on the RBH speakers I have in my home theater, which I think would be awesome sounding. Just a straight bass test. That's Kanye West's Monster. I know he's fallen out of favor with a lot of people with some of his antics recently, but there's no denying the man could put out some good beats.
Yeah.
Nice.
Don, Basshead Don, what you got?
Well, what kind of music? I mean, I listen to music while I'm working all day. And I use Qobuz and Tidal, and I just kind of find a song and let it go and find new music. So I've got pretty extensive list. Actually, one I've been checking out lately is a song called Blackbird, which is from Beyonce's country album. It's actually really, really good.
Oh boy, yeah.
It's really good. It's better than Taylor Swift.
You and Gene was talking about that the other day. That album.
It's well recorded.
Yeah.
Well recorded.
Yeah. Okay.
I like the Marson, the guitarist, has got some really good deep bass on a lot of his tracks. Cashmere's one that's kind of worn out, but it's really, really good. for listening to bass. And of course, I listen to a lot of electronic music, so that's all got really, really good bass in it.
What kind of electronic music? We talking like David Guetta?
Nah, like Ghost Rider. I listen to a lot of Ghost Rider. Several different bands. What's it? Tiesto. I listen to a lot of stuff like that. It's not quite hard techno. It's like just electronica dance. And I listen to a lot of stuff in 2 channel. I listen to a lot of stuff in Atmos music as well. I think really well recorded Atmos music is definitely the next thing. If it's just thrown together, it's not so great. But if they spend time with it and record it right, it's an amazing experience if you got a good system.
Steve, what kind of stuff you listen to? And also, like, what do you listen to in these tracks? What are you listening for? Like, what should people be listening for? I know we're just kind of just throwing out some songs right now, but like, what are some aspects that you would use? Why do you use these songs, and what are you looking for?
Well, I mean, it's very rare that I default to any of the traditional type audiophile type songs when I'm listening to music. But when I'm testing a system, you know, there's the old standby. I mean, obviously, Death Row by Chris Stapleton, right? I mean, it's a dynamic. I like to say that it's dynamic, and but I like Snoop. I'm a big West Coast guy, and I like a consistent bass sound to be
For
able to
shizzle my
listen to,
nizzle.
and the detail of whether or not I'm actually hearing, 5, 6, 7 different notes of bass, or am I listening to them all slurred into one? Um, and some of the stuff is kind of almost an untraditional type audiophile type music, like twee. Um, I mean, it's a huge stage that you listen to, which is, um, and the bass line on it is a very fast and transient. And a lot of systems, it's just really one note that you really get a chance to listen to if you don't have something that is really articulate enough to be able to reproduce it. Me too. I like Kanye too. I like a lot of Kanye West. There's always
Yeah.
something in Kanye that I like to be able to listen to. And uh, Ed Sheeran, if you want to really test a system and make a sub work, Shivers. If you play it on just a regular kind of, if you don't have a sub, it's almost anemic in the bass. But when you have a really good sub, I mean, it is powerful. It is very, very dynamic, and it's just uh, really intense. It makes a song. It turns it from an almost wimpy type of a song to almost some West Coast rap song that was done up by Ed Sheeran, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good song. This stuff's really well recorded too. So
Yeah, he's got some of that, kind of hip hop, feel to his music. Not only like adult contemporary, but he does like pop ish, rap ish type of music. Those collaborations
Yeah.
with rappers and Taylor Swift, your favorite artist, Don, stuff like that. He's got some good he's got some good beats. But like, what are you guys listening for, Kenny, on your speakers when you're testing things out?
Well, one big thing is soundstage. How large does the speakers project the sound beyond the physical limitations of the speaker, as well as depth and sound that's in front of the speakers. So one good artist that really has very dynamic music that has good sound staging is Yellow. I know they're a classic
yeah, I was
hi-fi,
getting ready to say that.
but they produce some really good tracks with just a little bit of everything. They have the dynamics, they have the depth of soundstage, and the projecting the sound behind you feeling. One song that we use a lot is Planet Data, the Flamboyant remix. That one's just an incredible track. So that one kind of just has a little bit of it all.
Children of Sanchez. I know you listen to that.
Oh, that's Shane's favorite for sure. That one is incredibly dynamic. Like you almost have to turn up the volume of the music right at the beginning because it's recorded so like with so much
It
dynamic
goes
range.
like that pretty
then-
deep before it blows up.
Yep, exactly. And then when it hits those trumpets, it's like you're at a live venue.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Was that Japanese drummer album you guys were telling me about before?
Poem of Chinese Drum.
Is that what it's called? What'd you say?
Yeah, Poem of Chinese Drum.
Oh, yeah. I'll have to throw up after the fact. I'll throw up some images. But that's a good one. Like, I never heard that. Well, I don't go to a lot of shows like you guys do, so that's the first time I heard it. And yeah, I think it slams.
I listen to all kind. I've got a full Mediterranean music playlist. You talk about if it's really well recorded. There's an incredible mix of instruments, non-traditional instruments, a lot of percussion, a lot of hand drum. A band might have 4 instruments as a rule 5. If you got a keyboard, sometimes these groups have like 10 or 12 different kinds of instruments. So it's really, really fascinating music to listen to. I enjoy it.
Who's that?
It's Mediterranean type music. I can give you some specific artists if you'd like on that. Man, I got so many deep playlists I've been building for years. If we could post them, I think we're gonna post up some playlists. You should do a Shane Lee playlist full of Taylor Swift. So one group I really like is called Beats. Beats, Antique. Beats Antique. They've got some killer music. A lot of international music is really great, really well recorded.
K-pop.
I had some K-pop. There's a K-pop chick rapper. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. She's really good. It's got kind of a cool, interesting, kind of feel to it. And you ever heard of Thievery Incorporated? That's a really good group. Yeah, I gotta send you a bunch of stuff, man. Drum Spider, all kinds of cool stuff, man.
It's a great thing about being in the age that we are in right now. We have unlimited access to music, right? I mean,
Yep.
it's like you can sit there for hours and just go through and scroll through the next song and the next song and the next song. It's just, I mean, it's kind of like the internet. It's never going to end for us.
Yeah.
So we got Howard Wong, bass, Depeche Mode. People are good. Jennifer Warnes,
Yeah, I got Way Down Deep. I listened to
Yeah.
Depeche
Yeah.
Mode.
Dire Straits.
Keith Don't Go. Yeah, those are all
Yeah. Quito.
kind of like audio show
Yeah.
standard. What, talking about the age we live in. I mean, literally, I've been kind of checking out a bunch of streaming amps like Name and NAD and the Cambridge now. It's amazing to me how this thing the size of a lunchbox, or maybe a little bit bigger, has every kind of input and output that you would ever really want. A subwoofer out, built-in streaming and powerful amplifiers, like 150 watts, legitimate 150 watts a channel.
How do you feel that? I'm not saying in every amp that I've listened to recently, but a lot of this Class D stuff that I've listened to, sometimes I just can't tell the difference between these things. Like, they just sound the same.
good.
Just going back and forth. Sometimes I just can't tell the difference.
I mean,
And so I wonder, like, when I watch these other bigger channels do these same reviews, I'm like, how are you picking out these little nuances when I'm A/Bing these things with everything being the same? Where these guys, they don't do these comparisons. They don't have like a different, different source that they're using with the same speakers and going back and forth. They're just like, oh, this is what I remember from when I did this review. This is what it sounds like. This is what it sounds like from this. Where I like to have like a different amp on hand to do the comparison with, so that way I can say, oh, this is what it sounds like compared to this one and this one, and I go back and forth. That's how I like to do my reviews, rather than off of memory. But recently, I've just been like, oh man, this shit. Even though it's like $10,000 more, kind of sounds the same as the $3,000 one.
Well, the problem with reviewing now in this day and age, and everybody, I never see a bad review. There's just not that much bad stuff out there. I mean, you're hard pressed. I mean, most of your speakers are really good that are out now. They kind of have to be competitive. I mean, there's certainly differences in the speakers, but a lot of these integrated amps and stuff are great. I mean, again, that Cambridge piece that I don't have the DeLorean model, but it's about a little under $3,000, and you'd be hard pressed to beat that sound. You'd have to go with some kind of big monster amp. And the mono blocks it's just amazing, and it's clean. It's very clear. It's got a good defined bass. I mean, Class D is where it's at. A lot of the people argue, oh, it sounds like a Class D, does it? I think there's a whole bunch of hyperbole.
And it's not just the Class D, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's what happens after that Class D, right? How articulate you're going or how your goal is to be able to make it sound like everything else that's out there that people love to be able to listen to. I mean, I have listened to some Class D stuff that hasn't sounded great,
Sure.
right? And sometimes I think that there are people that if they had a bad experience on the Class D before they even go and fire it up, they've made the determination. So they're not being really studious about really listening to the gear, because I agree. An A and B type of a demonstrator is really the only way to be able to tell. Right. And,
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, I do it all the time when I'm inside stores and, we're up against stuff that's a lot more expensive. And, it's just, hey, let's do an A/B comparison. You tell me, you do your best to set the volume control as close as possible. Right. And then demo the tracks and start it all over again, go back. And I mean, a really well designed and well made Class D, it's hard to be, well, even when you go up the food chain into more expensive Class A/B, it's hard to be able to tell the difference.
Yep.
Right? Maybe when you get really high up the food chain, it's going
And
to
really
be
high end speakers too. Yeah, but
right.
I mean the differences are subtle. I mean, most people couldn't tell the difference, and
Yeah.
everybody that's reviewing wants to come up. The effervescent sound was magically in Beethoven's Fourth Symphony in D minor, and I heard, no, you didn't. You're just trying to write something to make yourself look smart.
Hey, Kenny, you guys make Class D, right? I know I put in the request with you for the 9 channel or whatever.
Really
And then,
good. Really
yeah.
good quality.
Yeah.
What do you guys just make Class D, or you guys do AB as well?
Just Class D for right now. We're doing tube amps at one point in time, but we kind of stuck to just the Class D and kind of doing the high end, Class D modules with custom input boards.
Yeah.
To make it our sound. But they're very, very dynamic, very neutral. And that's what Shane really likes about them the most, is that they're so dead neutral that he can use them for all the testing the gear and testing the speakers, and he can rely on the output for really solid, good measurements.
And super powerful. I mean, Class D just gives you more bang for your dollar. Most Class D amps double or come close to double.
Not always. Not always.
I said most. That's what I just said. But a big majority of them do, and they give stupid amounts of power output for the size. They run cool. They're not heating up your place. They're efficient. I just think you're gonna. And then when we start seeing more surround receivers come out with Class D, I had an NAD T778, and I thought that thing sounded amazing. It was a really good piece for a surround sound amp. But I've only got one Class AB amp in all my systems left.
Steve, when I had the Edge, I had like all the edges. I think I reviewed almost all of them. I noticed they all did sound the same. They had a warmth to them. I would say that the top end was definitely rolled off on all of them. because I compared them to like Rotel, Krell, Hagel. Every single time, I was just like, man, the edges are just kind of, they're very warm. They're soft on the top. And then when I got the Evo in, I was like, oh, this is gonna sound. I like some brightness. Like I like to hear the
Little bright.
Yeah, I like the brightness to them. Not like I can't do 3 bright, but when I got the Evo in, I was just like, I might be a little disappointed in this because I feel like it's gonna be warm. But then I was like, oh wow, this sounds different. This is different than the Edge. Because I was expecting maybe Cambridge had their own sound signature that they were kind of aiming for, but I feel like this is different than what you guys had on the Edge series. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but that's kind of what because I listen to the same 5 songs every time, so it's like ingrained in my brain what these things sound like on per amp.
And
And
on the Edge, our goal in designing that product was to really be as neutral and transparent as possible, right? Adding almost no sonic signature to it, and I mean, when you look at spec wise, I mean the specs are great. When you go and you listen to it, I mean, to me, the black level is really black on it. I mean, and it's very detailed and articulate on the bass.
are you talking about the Edge or the
So yeah,
Evo?
the high end sounds a little bit softer.
Yeah.
And I've listened to it on some Focals and sometimes in some rooms that were bright that I had listened to, it kind of tamed them on down.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good word, if it tamed them on down, but it didn't really. It had a completely different type of a sonic signature from what we would go in A/B was normally inside that room.
Yeah, that's what it had. When I had the
There's a
Kenta
lot of
3s
people
in.
that. What's that?
When I had the Kenta 3s, which I thought were bright, and I told Gene and Don and everybody else about them, I was like, oh, these speakers suck because they're so bright. Luckily, I had the Edge monos at the Edge M's at the time, because I think I was reviewing, maybe it was the Hagels or another NAD amp, and I was like, let me put the Edge on them, and it took the edge off of it for sure. Not totally, but it made it a lot more listenable to my ears. So, when people are like, you should probably like pair up your gear speakers with amps, you should pair them up. I found in this specific situation that did make sense, especially if you're not going to use like DSP or EQ or anything like that. So I found that it helped with brighter speakers.
Right.
There's
sound is very critical to somebody purchasing a pair of equipment, right? And there again, trying to be able to make it have the least amount of impact on the actual music itself, just to really amplify it and send it out to the speakers and give it all you got, is a goal that I think a lot of manufacturers, and I think that on the Evo, I think it's a different product customer, right? Because I think that a lot of the people who are buying Evo aren't, we go and we abuse them on a $20,000 pair of speakers or a $15,000 pair of speakers. And the average guy, I mean, I think that the average person caps out on a unit like that probably at around an $8,000 or $10,000 pair of speakers, which still buys you a great pair of speakers, right?
Yeah, it's still a lot of money.
But it was, in my opinion, it was something that we didn't have to be as transparent. We could have a slight coloration to it, which a lot of people really prefer if you A/B, especially a speaker that's in a sonically really dead room, right?
I always think that something that colors the sound, obviously it gives that device or speaker or amp, whatever, its own kind of signature to it. It's a subjective thing you're gonna like. And when you go into these guys that are taking measurements and the guys that only read graphs, they're like, oh, listen, there's a dip here at 2K or there's a bump here at 20K. it's a roll off here at wherever. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. You can read graphs, but until you hear it, make your judgment there. It's almost like everybody always wants this neutral sound, this flat line to be the de facto, where it's almost like if you have a perfect recipe for an apple pie, listen, I might like a little bit more cinnamon in it than you do. That might make it a little bit perfect for me. Like, it's the same for music, for amps, for speakers. So if you're just basing it off of numbers, you don't know really what the hell you're talking about. And those guys that are only doing these measurements on speakers, that's fine for a baseline, but you really have to go and listen to the stuff, because it might not measure perfectly well. It might not, have the perfect line graph or whatever, or decay time, whatever it is. You really just have to listen to it. But, for the folks out there that are just strictly into just like the numbers, listen, just like being a chef. It's like being in a restaurant. Add a little bit more salt, add a little bit more pepper, more hot sauce. That's what audio is to me. It's like, it's a real personal type of thing, and everybody's gonna have a personal taste. Just don't base it on like, I'm just gonna put a half tablespoon of sugar in it in this one, and like, you got to follow the rules.
Well,
It's something that's very
what
subjective.
I think is that, look, measurements are important, and all speaker makers and designers use measurements. That's how they can tell where they're at and what they're doing. But there's a whole measurement cult that's being built through people that are pimping that. People are just buying shit based on measurements, and
Yeah.
speaker designers add a dip here or a boost here so that a speaker sounds good in a multitude of environments. Just because the speaker measures flat on your fancy machine doesn't mean it's going to sound good in your room. I mean, certainly it's a good start. Like Teo from Audioholic said, measurements are, how I want to figure out if I want to date a girl, but listening is when I know I want to marry her. And it's an analogy, but I think it's a shame because these guys are out there shitting on all over great products that sound amazing in room, and just like COVID and all this other shit, people follow the science. People are just like lemmings, follow that, dude, and they don't take the time to listen to it. Well, it's the truth. Am I wrong, Steve? I mean,
No, I
if you
absolutely
just went
agree
by
with that.
measurements, you'd have a miserable life, dude. So, I mean, yes, measurements are important, but listening to a pair of speakers in a room, in a correct room, or the room you're going to have them in is important because they all behave differently. It's important to have a good. You don't want a speaker that's terrible measuring. Obviously, we all know that it's going to happen. But like Big Jack said, they're subjective. You think vocals are a little bright. I think they sound great. Our hearing's different. What we listen to is different. Some people love Sonus Faber. Some people love RBH. There's a lot of speakers that I love, and they're all a little bit different. But I don't necessarily go by the measurements on it. I think if that was the case, you could put some numbers in a computer, have AI design you a box, and everything would sound the same. And you can have two speakers that measure almost identical sound completely different. One could have a ribbon tweeter, one can have a dome, one could have a compression driver. It is so subjective that you need to get out and listen, and not buy based on, people pissing on everything because it doesn't measure what they think it's going to measure. And I appreciate the guys out there. Aaron comes to mind. Aaron's a good friend of mine, and he does. It's really cool. But
don't say nothing. You're gonna call me on and tell me to take the stream off. Don't say nothing.
Just because a speaker doesn't measure perfect doesn't mean you're not going to like it. That's the truth. I'll say it to anybody because I know I've been doing this for over 3 decades, dude. I've listened to a lot of. So in my business, we like to get a speaker that works really well, and use that in a lot of different theaters. Oh man, these things sound great, and although they're relatively consistent when we put them in different rooms, a lot of them sound different heights, different. They could be a floor standard, it could be behind a baffle wall. I mean, they're different. So you want to try to get some. I like a speaker that's dynamic, that can handle a lot of power, that doesn't have dynamic compression as you go up the chain, meaning it doesn't tonally change as you turn it up. Good, really good controlled dispersion on a speaker. So I mean, there's a lot of pages to that book. And I don't want people just buying stuff based on measurements. I want them to listen to it before they decide, oh, I don't want to buy that. It's got a dip in 3 kilohertz, and you can hear that, can you? I mean,
Since we got Kenny here and he's part of the RBH and they make speakers, like when you and Shane and the rest of the RBH crew are like designing speakers, are you aiming for like a flat response? Is that the goal? Is there a specific goal or a specific sound that you're looking for each? Because you guys got a bunch of speakers. I mean, every brand has a bunch of speakers.
Yeah.
Is there a specific goal you guys are looking for? And like, why is there... I understand why there's different price points,
Right.
but would you think different price points should all sound the same and maybe just be built differently? Or do you design the entry level brand to sound worse than the higher level brands? What's the idea behind you designing speakers, the philosophy behind it?
Well, Shane does most of the designing, but I know for a fact he over-engineers everything he does. So even the entry-level speakers are going to have a very similar sound signature to the big stuff. The big stuff is there to have more headroom, have more output capabilities. And so it just depends on your room size at that point. If you've got a large room, put some big stuff in there. Or if you want to have the maximum amount of output, you need the bigger speaker. But tonally, like Shane does design them to have a pretty neutral with a slightly raised upper mid-range and treble to get a little bit more refinement and detail. But another cool thing about the drivers that we use are proprietary aluminum drivers. Most people know that aluminum has a prominent breakup mode in the 2 to 5K hertz range, but we have a proprietary damping coat on the back of the aluminum driver that negates that and boosts that breakup mode to 6 to 8 kilohertz, which we're crossed over at that point and it becomes a null issue. So you still get a very detailed and smooth response. So really we want something that's highly detailed, very smooth and easy listening, and just overall a very revealing speaker.
A lot of people like a speaker with a little bit of boost here and there because it may not measure completely flat, but people's hearing degrades as you get older. And some people like a little bit of boost at this frequency, or especially in the upper mid range is someplace it helps them hear a little bit cleaner, a little bit clearer. And speaker companies know this. You think a company like Paradigm or Focal, or I'm talking about real big companies, and with facilities that rival a NASA laboratory. Do you think that they're purposely making the speaker be completely flat? Because no, they're adding things to it based on extensive listening, panels of people to listen. They want to build a speaker that people enjoy, and sometimes a little boost or a little little downturn here or whatnot balances out for people. In-room response. How's it going to sound next to a wall where people are going to put it? That's the secret sauce. Just like golf, golf tournaments are won by the short game. A lot of golfers can hit a 400-yard shot with a 3-wood, on a green, but it's the chipping and putting in the short game, and that's where your really good speaker designers sit there and they listen and they tweak. They listen and they tweak. They measure. Measurements are a tool, right? They're a tool to help you get to where you want to go. You have to be able to know what you're doing and see it scientifically on a chart, on a graph, on a computer, where you're at. Because even their ears probably aren't perfect. That's why they bring other people in. But then somebody gets it and puts it on a machine, and it's got a little here and a little there. Like, oh my God, this thing's horrible. Rah! I'm like, really? Like, I didn't hear that. I heard a killer speaker. So I guess it's a difference of opinion. A lot of people, and come in the audio business, they're trying to, or come into the audio world, they want to buy a nice system and this and that, and you get 8,000 different opinions and people loving one thing and somebody else shits on it, and they don't know what to think. So the measurement thing makes a lot of sense to people, and people roll with it. right, versus
Well, there should
listening.
be some, a lot of measurements are critical as far as in
Totally,
matching so that they match up to the specifications, right?
totally.
Is it
Mhm.
really a 5 ohm impedance speaker, right?
Right.
Uh,
It's a
you
guesstimate.
know, and when you go and you take a look at things, there is, especially on a speaker, I mean, the measurements, what it is in one room is completely different than it may be in another room, right?
Bingo.
If you're listening to it. If it's just a static measurement, well, that can be pretty equal. But there again, when is the speaker ever static that you're really listening to it, right? It's always, right? And, there's a lot of people that they walk into a room and it's needed a bunch more room treatment. And so the, the measurements should back up what the manufacturer claims, right? And that I think is more important than anything else. If it backs
100%.
up what the manufacturer says, and then whether it's impedance, whether it's frequency response, right? If it's a plus and minus 6 dB or whatever the measurement is within accuracy, and it measures out of those parameters, well then that means something, right? But it could still be a great sounding speaker, even though it doesn't fall within those parameters. But the manufacturer needs to take their own responsibility and make sure that their specs match what it tests
It's
out at.
kind of a
What do you think,
guesstimate
Kenny?
because it's going to be different in every room. You're right, Steve. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what I'd like to see is something measured, show the measurements to everybody. Here's how it measures. We got this and that. Then put it in a couple different rooms and listen to it and go, man, this thing actually sounds amazing, or this sounds really good. I think if you measure and you see a little this and there, psychologically, you put it in a room and you listen to it, you're even though you probably really don't hear it, you convince yourself that you hear this, unless you've got Superman ears. Um, and look, it's cool that speaker companies are being held accountable, and amplifier companies by all these excellent people measuring and testing stuff out, but it's not the whole story.
Do
And
you think speakers
one
should
art,
have a size classification? Because I know THX has that specification. Do you think all speakers should? Because I know moving from my old apartment room to the bigger space, going from different size speakers, I could tell that I need either a little bit more juice, or the smaller speakers that I had just can't play loud enough for this room. Do you think speakers should have like a size rating?
a lot of companies do. I know Focal, not to harp on them, but I know they put some room sizes, ranges, and a lot of their speakers and what they do.
Yeah.
And that's a good point, Shane. Sizing your speakers to your room I think, is critical because I have
Yeah.
heard and seen, especially at audio shows, they'll put a flagship pair of speakers in a little bitty hotel room, and they're
Yep.
compressing, and they can't breathe, like they don't sound right. I mean, would you agree with that, Steve? You've heard probably more audio shows than I have.
Absolutely, a hundred
Yeah,
percent.
like when I heard those Kefs in your room last year at Audio Advice, just the what metas, is that what they were? The
50s,
55
yeah.
meta?
LS50s.
Yeah, on the Cambridge little, that was one of the best sounds I heard at the show, and that was one of the least expensive sounds. Then I heard some other speakers that I know are amazing in a huge room, or excuse me, a huge speakers in a small room, and I'm like, you got to size them to the room too. I think that's important. Nobody ever talks about that.
Yeah, like you're gigantic.
Absolutely.
Your gene, I call them the gene speakers. Like if you were to put that in a small-ish room,
Like my buddy
would
has,
that,
yeah. It
does
doesn't
that
sound
make
the same.
sense? Yeah.
No, it doesn't sound the same. Kenny, tell them about your Exponent experience with trying to put the SVTRs in there.
Oh yeah, it's a small little hotel room. SVTRs. The biggest problem is it just overloads the room. You get a lot more room
Yep.
interaction. Just too much energy. So
Too much energy. Yep.
don't get me wrong, it still sounded good, just not as good as they can.
Yeah.
I mean, I love big speakers, and I cannot lie, but I like them in the right size room. I mean, I got 4 separate systems, and they're all kind of size for the room. Now you can take a smaller speaker and can get a little lost in a big space sometimes, unless it's something like a Per Listen, or that has a crazy dynamics on it. Per Listens aren't necessarily that big, but they really play loud. But So you just kind of think it out. It depends on your listening habits too. If you just like to put on some nice music and listen at 75, 80 dBs, you know.
Yeah. Big Jack says, I would like a spec that says compression starts at X dB at 1 meter.
That's good. That's cool. Big Jack 79. No, it's, I think I kind of fell in love with Revel speakers years ago, going back to the 90s, old, because really they were one of the first speakers that I listened to that did not suffer from dynamic compression. And Kevin Vokes, which is the designer of the original Revel Ultima series, really showed that, helped demonstrate that. Like, even like the Revel Gems, as you turn them up louder and louder and louder, a lot of speakers will compress, and that, but they tonally change, meaning as you turn them up, they just sound different. And Revel was kind of one of the first speakers that I really listened to and owned that didn't do that, and they were fun because you could do that, you know. But I think now a lot of speakers with modern technology, modern crossovers, better drivers, from a Rendell to the new Martin Logans to, the Paradigms to whatever. I'm not trying to leave anybody out. It's really hard to find a bad speaker anymore. I don't know about the new Emotivas that Robinson just pissed all over, but in general, yeah, you see that.
Yeah. Yeah, they were not a fan of those speakers. No comment. Although, Kenny, you guys released the, I think we talked about them last month, right? Which was it, the Contour series? Not Contour. Compression series?
Impression.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's our small speakers. So they're really designed for smaller rooms, but really carry over the RBH signature sound and really phenomenal sound. Like the little towers they're something special. They don't
sound
play
better
super
than any
loud.
right. Yeah, for the money.
Yeah, for the money, they sound great. You're not losing any highs or anything like that. But like in the right size room, like honestly at Exponent we had those right next to the big SVTRs, and they actually sounded better in that room because they were sized for the room.
I still don't understand why RBH is not more popular.
Hold on. What does RBH stand for?
It's the initials of the original owner, Roger B. Hassing.
Roger B. Hassing?
Yep.
Okay. All right, now I know. Okay, Robert B. Hassing.
Yeah.
Well, I know when Shane's designing RBH speakers that we've talked about extensively is he always tries to work in that lack of dynamic compression. He likes to make speakers that will play very loud without breaking up or, falling apart.
Yep.
But there is no replacement for displacement. He taught me that.
That is true.
Yeah, always know the limitations and set your crossovers appropriately.
And until you get to Keft and they kind of defy logic with sound they get out of some of their small little coaxial type drivers that they do. But
Yeah.
my advice to anybody is like, listen, if you want to. I mean, a lot of my clients don't listen. I mean, they pay us. They don't care if it's a Klipsch or if it's a Triad or if it's this or that. They trust us as professionals, and that's a sacred trust that we take very serious. But if you're a consumer and you want to buy a nice pair of speakers, read the articles, read the reviews, take it with a grain of salt, and try to go listen, which is a harder and harder thing to do. I understand, but companies like SVS and some companies will ship them to you, and you can ship them back if you don't like them. I think that's really cool. For companies to do that, but get out and listen to them, do a little homework, because let's face it, even a relatively inexpensive pair of speakers is a sizable investment for most people. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you agree, Stevie?
Absolutely, especially today, right? Eggs are expensive, food's expensive, and stuff. So the discretionary income has been cut back a little bit, but when you think about, although there is no end in sight to how expensive a pair of speakers can be now. Right. The value that the consumer gets in a lot of speakers is tremendous. The fit, the finish, the overall sound quality of them is remarkable. And, if we date ourselves, right, and we go back 30 years back in time, there wasn't very many manufacturers, and you really were kind of forced into a key set of parameters for a pair of speakers. Now we have anything from, really good looking entry level speakers on up to the sky's the limit price wise. And it is whether you buy based on what the final finished product looks like, or whether you buy based on the sound quality of that pair of speakers. And I know that it sounds odd that people would buy speakers based on what they look, but they do, right?
Oh, why would that be odd?
I
I
I do.
love. I
Yeah.
do. Dude, I look at a pair of speakers like, man, those are killer. I mean, they're a piece of furniture. Part of
Yeah.
your home.
Yes,
You're gonna go buy an
absolutely.
ugly table because it's sturdy.
Right. And for every married man that's out there, right, who wants to have a nice system, it has to have a certain amount of spouse approval, right? So a lot of times you it's not just the overall sound quality, but I think the consumer has more choices now than they ever possibly could, has
Too many.
better sounding speakers than they ever possibly could. And also, same thing on the electronics, right? Although it's not as varied as they are in speakers, right?
Mhm.
There's kind of a few players that are out there, but the consumers and their ability to have unfettered access to music. I mean, when we were growing up, we never had that, right?
Oh
It was
no,
go
we
buy
had
the
our own
album,
CD collections and
right? Our CDs and stuff. And yes, we listened differently, right? We listened to the whole side of the album and then flipped it all the time.
when you
Now
finish a song, you
we can
do
go
flip.
listen to a track or two, or we can go and we can put it on. We're not even really listening to it. And we have music playing for 6 hours while we have friends and guests over. I mean, I think that we live in a wonderful time right now for the
It's a
audio
renaissance.
Mm.
experience.
I agree. I mean, look at the amplifiers. Think about not just because you're here, Steve, but we talk about this all the time because we're boys. Full disclosure, Steve's one of my best friends. He likes to
Yes.
think so, anyways. Um, but what you get in a all in one box, I mean, the Evo 150 at 3 grand is not cheap, but dude, like that replaces a preamp, an amp, and a streamer. And then you can even go down the chain with some of the Cambridge products and things like Wim. Is it Wim? Did I say that right?
Wham. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, dude, every day I see a new Class D mini streaming amplifier for $500. That's
Yeah.
how cool is that? I mean,
I wonder if it
and
actually
they
sounds as
sound
good
good.
as like, but it doesn't sound as good as they say they do. Like, I haven't had. I've had a couple. I've got like a Fosse thing sitting in a DHL bag right now. In my mind, I'm just like, oh, this they put it in a DHL bag. It can't possibly sound good. Though I know there's a lot of fans
People
of
say
them.
it sounds good. I
Probably,
mean, for
but
what it is, dude. I mean, if
yeah,
you're
yeah.
just
I guess for it is.
yeah.
But also at the same time, you know, when people have never had the opportunity to be able to experience just that next level, or that entry, or that foray into better audio, right? Yeah, maybe to us it doesn't sound as good because we've heard much better, right? So we're kind of spoiled. Right? It's like somebody listening to the car audio all the time and hearing music and then going and giving them a two-channel demo. Hey, listen to the song. I know you've heard this on the radio a million times. Let me play it for you right now. And people are shocked what it actually sounds like, right? They're just shocked. I heard it in the car every day on the way to work for years, and I
Hmm.
had no idea that that's what
Or
it
at a
sounded like.
concert, or
So
yeah, I 100%, dude. Like nothing I like better than sitting somebody down and playing music for them, and then like the emotion that they go through. They're like, I'm hearing things in this song I've heard it 10,000 times. I didn't even know it was there. I mean that's pretty satisfying. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I took out the Evo 150 out the box. I was like, oh, this is another one of those little tiny fucking Class D amps. I was like, this ain't gonna sound good. And then,
These good ones coming out.
The Rebel Performance. You know?
because I was rocking the Hi-Fi Rose for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. I was like, this is legit. This sounds fucking good. And then and then you shipped me the Evo. I was like, here we go. I was like, all right, let me sit down. I was like, I was like, man, it sounds like the Hi-Fi Rose. And then I went back and forth with it for like hours. I was like, I don't know, dude. I was like, these are like the same. I was like, what's going on here? I was like, I'm like working on the review. I'm like, what am I saying? I was like, I'm just gonna be like, yo, these are the same. I was like, this is a little bit cheaper. You can save money. Just get this. But they're like the same. I was like,
killer, dude.
it is killer, yeah, for sure. But for less money, I was like, man, I was like, yo, this is. I was trying to come up with like some fucking superlatives, or I was going through the thesaurus to try to come up with different words. And I was like, I just can't because I just can't. I tried different speakers. I was like, yo, these are the freaking same. These sound the same to me. And this is noticeably less money. Well, it's less money. I was like, oh man. I was like, you would have to like sell one on just the features alone in this, in this regard. And yeah, man, just say you can get like really great performance. And listen, maybe unpopular opinion. Don't tell the other Cambridge people. I feel like the Evo probably sounds a little bit better than the Edge for me. From what I heard, I was like, I would own this over than the Edge, because I had the Edge for a couple of years, because it looked really cool in my rack. And when you were like, who buys stuff based on looks? I had it in my rack for years just because it looked super cool.
Everybody, dude, people that tell you that are full of crap. They're going to spend 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 20, whatever grand on some. This shit better look good. I mean,
yeah,
But
then I was like, the Evo can't be better than the Edge. I was like, it just can't be, because the Edge is like 4 times the cost. It weighs like 8 times the weight. I was just like, man, I just found myself the same 5 songs that I always listened to on the Edge when I did speaker comparisons. I was like, man, it just sounded to me. It sounded better. I don't know what the measurements say, but to me, it sounded better on the Evo than it did on the Edge. And the Edge is like, 15, 20 grand.
Evo, I don't know if you hooked up vinyl to it or not. And listened to vinyl on it.
I have.
Not me, but
how's it sound, Don?
It sounds killer. Can we tell the Gene story with the Evo real quick? Is that okay?
Yeah, you go ahead and tell the Gene story with it.
Yeah. So Gene. So I had this. He got one after I did. And I'm sitting there calling Gene. I'm like, dude, you got.
Hold on. Before you get to your story,
okay,
we're not trying to shill for Cambridge because Steve is here. Okay, this is like a legit story. This is like legit. If we didn't like these products, we wouldn't have had Steve come on. But go ahead, finish your story, Don.
I'm just full disclosure. It's the real story. I'm calling Gene. We talk all the time. I'm like, bro, this thing's amazing, because I just had the name Unity Star, which I have to say was an amazing, killer piece of equipment. It had a built-in CD player, Class AB. The app was great. I mean, it was hard to send it back. It was great. But so I hooked the Evo up. I'm like, wow, and on a multitude of high-end speakers, like anywhere from 10,000 a pair to 16,000 a pair and whatnot. And I'm telling Gene, so he finally breaks down. He measured it. He's like, dude, this thing didn't measure great. It's not bad, but it wasn't great. I'm like,
oh yeah.
I'm like, just freaking listen to it, dude. Right? Listen to it. And Steve, am I lying?
Nope.
Yeah. And I'm listening. So then Gene takes it in his little 2-channel room and hooks it up to the $16,000 pair Rebel 328 BEs, the Berylliums. And he calls me one and he's like, dude, I ain't gonna say what he said. And he's like, I am blah, 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 blah. This thing's amazing. And he's told me that like 4 times. I'm like, dude, I told you. But if you just read the measurements, you'd be like, well, I don't know. It doesn't, I mean, RBH's amps didn't measure like the cleanest in the planet. And I listen to them every day, and I'm like, this is one of the best sounding amps I've ever heard, with the Pascal module in it, Class D. I'm just speaking the truth. So there you go. Measurements don't tell the whole story. Gene loves that piece. Shane loves this piece. I love the piece. So I mean, you know, and that's 100% true. Gene will, we get him on here, he'd back us up on that. Well, you guys have that review dropping, right?
Yeah. I'm working on it. The only thing that's taken me a long time is going through the app. You know, some people just kind of gloss over it in the video reviews. They gloss over the apps, like, oh, it's got an app, you can pick your songs, blah blah blah. But I know a lot of people like to go through like settings and stuff in the app, so that always bores me when I'm doing it. So the voiceover always takes me a long time because I get bored saying, oh, click on the menu in the upper right corner, then you got settings for blah blah blah, settings for blah blah blah. I like to be thorough. I like to be thorough in that respect, but I also get bored when I do it. So that always takes me a long time to do.
You know, the old school 2-channel tweaker guys are always going to piss on stuff like this and whatever. It can't sound that good. I've heard some of the most expensive systems on the planet Earth multiple times, and you know, if a piece is good and it sounds good, that's what I like, man. I mean, I could critique it. I really like the Cambridge app. It's a full disclosure, I still think Blue Sound is the best app on the planet, but the Cambridge app's not far behind it. It's a really good app. And
it's good. I use Rune. I just use Rune. It makes it simpler.
Rune, yeah. I'm hoping to get a Nucleus soon. And which is a Rune, the Cambridge is a Rune endpoint. So you could put like Rune endpoints all through your house and have like one unified system without a control system. It'd be for music, which is cool.
Yeah. Right, listen, Kenny, you got to send me a 2-channel amp too. I want to get a 2-channel, 2 and a 9, just to have a 2-channel in the living room as a reference point. Yeah. For sure.
You got a whole box of them under your desk, right, Kenny? Just, you know.
I can send you a Crown. I've got plenty of those at home.
RVH amps are not cheap. I will tell you that right now.
No, they're not.
Yeah, but they're really good.
They really are. Like compared,
and you don't even promote them, which is crazy.
Well, yeah, I didn't even know you guys made amps.
Really good amps.
Yeah,
we're working on it, but I mean, you can go to the Unrivaled page, and it's the Alpha Custom. You can read all about it on our website. Mm-hmm. We need to promote it more, but it's kind of like they are expensive, but they perform the part.
Shelf.
Yep. And when I went to Exponent, not to harp on Exponent, listening to multi-$1,000 amplifiers, were just as good, if not better, for less money.
Yeah, it's weird. You can get. You know, back on the Evo, it's like I've had several $1,000 amps, like a lot of money amps, and then I get the little Evo in. I had the little hi-fi Rose in, and it's like, oh man, these can't possibly sound that good. And like reviewing amps, it's already in your brain. It's like it's not gonna sound good. I'm gonna just be kind to it, but not crap on it, but just say it sounds good for its price category. Type of thing, which all the reviewers do. But this legit sound, I don't want to crap on the Edge, but I'm like, oh, the little Evo, I thought it sounded better than the Edge, and it's me personally, I just thought it sounded better than the Edge. It just doesn't look as cool. That's all. So just a few years out from the Edge, I was like, oh man, you can get really awesome stuff for like not that much money. That's in its tiny form factor nowadays. It's kind of crazy. It's almost like you used to have big PCs. Now you can have a PC in your pocket on your iPhone that does way more than it used to do back in the past. Type of thing, like the kind of performance that you can get now for such a small package. It's kind of crazy as far as amplifier and power is concerned. Well, speakers too.
So, Steve, anything new from Cambridge?
Was that covered? I didn't mean to shit on the Edge series. Sorry, Steve.
Yeah. Let's not get myself in trouble again. Yeah, we've got a few things that are launching out right away.
Oh yeah, I saw. Yeah, super cool. Yeah, that looks. I'm not gonna say nothing about it, but yeah, super cool.
And so we've got a year coming out, and I think last time that I was here, I was talking something that I wouldn't be surprised if we had a set of headphones coming out.
The melanomas.
We'll be launching on those.
Melanomas, yeah. That's what I read too. Melanomas. Megalomanias or whatever, melanomania.
Yeah.
Who the hell picked that?
Exactly it.
Were they like, Yo, mate, we should call it melanoma.
Oh yeah. Well, when you're high at the time, it sounded great. Hey, don't tell me you haven't done anything when you're buzzed and right.
What do you speak of, sir?
That's how the name came
And
from.
this year we're going to have several different product launches. We're hoping to expand the Evo line. We've had a lot of success with that, and I feel that there's more than we could bring out. So hopefully we should have something launching in Evo line again this year as well. And then we're going to be at Capitol Audio Fest. We're going to have some big news at Capitol Audio Fest. We're going to be displaying some new stuff and have uh, some really cool setups at Capitol Audio Fest. And what else do we got going on here? I think that's about it right now.
What's going on? I know you guys used to do. I asked you this last time, but is Cambridge ever going to get into the home theater game again, or is it strictly just 2-channel?
I think right now we're pretty set in the mode of 2-channel.
Yeah.
Unless we, I mean, as a manufacturer, I think limited edition products on things that you've made before and were previously successful with is probably a better thought process.
Right.
You do a one-time type manufacturer, do run and sell out, the 1,000 or 2,000 units worldwide. It's quick. It's not necessarily always profitable, but I think you keep your customer base happy.
Yeah. You know what would be awesome if there was a limited edition status RBH speakers. Is it status or stratus?
It was status. We actually sold that IP.
Oh, really?
It is a thing of the past. So Unrivaled is kind of, the new status.
What do you mean? You can't call it, but you can make it look the same, right?
We could, yeah. It'd be under the Unrivaled name, limited edition.
Unrivaled limited edition.
Right.
I think you get that out a little bit, because I think Gene was the only one that had them, and I was like, oh my god, those are the coolest looking speakers I've ever seen. And then he sold them for the.
Yeah, we had three pair ever made, so there's a couple other happy customers out there.
So
Damn.
we talked about the surround sound. When you go down the path of doing surround sound receivers, the 800-pound gorilla is HDMI. I mean, doing a surround receiver, Cambridge is fully capable of doing all that. But when you get into HDMI, that's where a lot of these companies, it takes them a while to get it right. Several upgrades and updates and whatnot. I mean, that's the kicker, man, is getting the HDMI switching and output from the monitor out correct. I mean, I think you'd agree with me on that, Steve. That's
Oh, absolutely.
it's hard to compete with the Japanese receivers on that. And even a lot of companies
just getting chipsets, right?
What?
Getting enough chipsets and the current supply. So it becomes very, very difficult, to be able to do the production quantity that it takes to be able to make it really profitable, I think, or to make a dent. But
a guy from Yamaha, a rep for Yamaha, explained it to me one time. He's like, I'm like, wow, your Yamaha has the same chips as this $10,000 blah blah blah, and he's like, well, these are great, but we'll order 5 to 10,000 chips at a time, and these companies might order 500 at a time. So there's a pretty substantial savings. So a lot of these Japanese manufacturers make good products, man. I don't think they get sometimes the credit they deserve on the higher scale, but it's hard to compete in that arena. I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Oh, as far as home theater stuff, I remember you guys made those Blu-ray players that were pretty popular because they were like the Oppo clones.
I seen one after that one call. It was on sale at I can't remember who was selling on $3,800.
No.
Yeah.
I saw one for $5,000 on Amazon today. An Oppo player. $49.99. I'm like, wow, I should sell mine.
Personally, I think that we need to make it, right? I mean, I think that we need to have You know, a metal body,
Yeah.
nice, you know, a nice universal type player, Blu-ray player that, because to me it just makes sense.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I can't tell you how many people that I personally know that their Blu-ray player doesn't work, but they still won't throw out their Blu-ray.
Oh no.
Yep.
Right?
I think if you guys made one, like a Blu-ray 4K player, you guys would kill it because
Yeah.
nobody's making them right now.
You
Like
wouldn't-
Sony, LG, Samsung, they all stopped like 2 years ago.
It's a niche market, dude.
Yeah,
The
very
average
niche.
person
Yeah.
Stream. You're fine with that. What do you think? Sonos and all these companies are, gigantic now because they're easy to use and people stream everything. People like convenience. Like a product like the Evo or whatever. In the audio world, it's a high fidelity product, but it's convenient. Most people don't care about putting a physical disc anymore. You go to a flea market, there's like 9,000 DVDs for sale. Um, I mean, it's just the world we live in now. And all the hard media or hard disk media people are always, oh, that's the best way. Oh yeah, it's cool. I take a Kaleidoscape over 10,000 HD Blu-rays, but um, it is what it is.
Well, it's also size and scale, right? You know, we could make 2,000 or 3,000 pieces and it's okay, right? To somebody that's a big manufacturer, a Sony, a Yamaha, right? That that's found in the petty cash store that kind of drops out, right?
Oh, for
Because
sure.
so it's not even worth their time to be able to build, to be able to take care of the market, right? And there again, being a small manufacturer has a lot of benefits to the customer because we can be
Oh,
a
for
little bit
sure.
more devoted to what the customer asks for.
If anybody reaches out to Cambridge Audio, they get a response, even if they leave a comment. And that's something I noticed as I was kind of researching Cambridge more. When once I met you guys and you were more on my radar, I was like, wow, these guys actually give a shit. Like they talk to everybody. Try to get hold of somebody at Sony or Yamaha. Not that they're bad. It's just they're gigantic, ginormous companies. We talk about. I know we're here to talk about music, but the progression of technology. I got to hear the new Sony Bravia 4 speaker system with a subwoofer a couple weeks ago, and dude, I gotta tell you, and I own a bunch of high end stuff, and we were all in that room. That little Sony system kicked ass, dude, for what it was. It was really good, and I think we're gonna see more and more of that. Smaller amps. It's like you said, we're in a renaissance, man, for this for technology and what companies are going to come out with.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm supposed to get one of those in the Bravia something or another. It was
For
the evolution of the HTA9 setup.
Yeah, it's cool, dude. It actually sounds really good. I mean, not just it's good for a sound bar, like a Sonos sounds good. If you got nothing else around, it sounds real good. But this thing was like livable. I mean, if I had to have only that, and I had no choice, I wouldn't be that disappointed. It had dynamics. When in surround mode, it created an absolute phenomenal rock solid center channel image. Even the fake Atmos sounded good. The dynamics were exceptional. And I think a lot of that's to do with the Sony processing too. That new Sony spatial processing, which you find on the ES receivers now. If you're going to plug in a mic and run it, and not get on REW or get on a laptop and do the full Dirac or this and that, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it is the best plug and play calibration system on the market. If you're just a simpleton and plug it in and want to process it and go and listen, it's the best one I've heard.
Yeah, it sounds good. I mean, it's built on the receiver has it built in too. It's
Yeah,
like
receivers have it built in. One of the best at an audio show that we all went to recently. One of the best sounds we heard at the show was the entry level KEF speakers with the Sony ES receiver using that processing and that calibration. It was like, wow, it was amazing.
Yo, do you ever find like I'm sure all you guys probably do. Do you ever like find when you first get your home theater, your speaker systems in, whether it's 2-channel or home theater, you're like, fuck, this sounds awesome. You tweak it, you're like, oh, this sounds awesome. and then you go to like a show or your buddy's house or somebody else's house, you're like, sounds better than mine. Because you just get used to yours. You just get used to yours. You're just like, oh man, I think this is better than mine. No, you never feel that. I get that all the time.
If you go to Gene's, his theater room. But I mean,
like I listen to mine all the time. Like I'll be in there for hours at a clip. Like, and then I'll go to like just like a little store with a demo room. I was like, oh my god, I think it sounds better than mine.
Demo.
I'll go to the Ascendo demo.
$1,000 worth of gear, fully calibrated in a room. That's magical. Yeah, of course.
I wouldn't say it's magical, but I was like, oh shoot. I was like, I gotta go home and see if mine sounds like this. And I was like, yeah, of course it sounds like this. I've heard it already 1,000 times. But why did it sound better here? Or it just sounds. I guess
Like
it just
a new
sounds.
piece of
I guess it
gear.
sounds different. It just sounds different. You get so used to yours, you're just like, oh, this is different. I think after a while, everybody wants the perfect system and all, but I think after a while, it's just like you get it, and it's like it says you measure it all you can, you get it as perfect as flat as it can be or whatever. You get your curve as perfect as it can be, and then you go someplace else where they probably didn't take as much time calibrating it or whatever. You're like, oh, it's so different. I think it might be better than mine. You guys never get that experience. I get that shit all the time.
Everybody
dude.
says they want a room that sounds like a movie theater. And
Mm-hmm.
screw that, dude. Movie theaters to me, I mean, they're just loud. Even a Dolby Cinema that I've been to, or the IMAX cinemas, they're just insanely loud. I always thought most movie theaters, the bass is really sloppy.
Who's Swirling
Wow.
Dragon? Has Swirling Dragon been to Gene's?
I don't even know. I mean, other than Swirling Dragon Mist and his smart ass comments all the time. I like that. A girl. I don't know. It could be a female. I don't want to. Sorry, sweetie. It's your girl.
Apparently, he's been to Gene's house. Oh, interesting.
Has he?
I don't know. I would assume he said to listen to anything at Gene's. Maybe he's been there.
Gene's room sounds really good. You've been there, Steve. Right?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you haven't yet? I thought you went over there.
No. Hopefully
You've been in my house.
this month, towards the end of the month, I'm trying to make it down to Tampa and then
Okay.
before I head up to Massachusetts.
Yeah, you've been to my house and listen.
Yes. Listen to all your systems, even the one in your bedroom.
Yeah, the tour of Italy.
Yeah, interesting.
I do.
Okay.
I take people here. I take them in my office, which is the studio sound. Then I take them to my bedroom.
And that's the last stop.
Right. And let them listen to that. Then I take them to my 2-channel and the big system, the King Kong system.
King Kong, right.
Yeah, you named it. You're like, that's a King Kong system. Yeah, it didn't come out right then.
That's awesome.
Sorry, Kenny. Kenny, say something, please.
Okay, he's like, oh,
Save us.
I'm enjoying the banter. It's hilarious.
Hey, don't tell me you haven't been to Don's bedroom.
I haven't made it out to Florida yet, but eventually.
Yeah, he'll throw rocks at other men once he comes to my place.
Wait, where is RBH anyways? Is it Nashville?
We're in Utah.
No, dude.
You okay, yeah.
Salt Lake City. Outside of Salt Lake, right?
Yeah. About 20 minutes north of the Salt Lake.
And people can go to. You guys got like a showroom setup and stuff at the place, right?
We got a whole theater, ATMOS setup. We've got some 2-channel areas. Unfortunately, we tore down the theater for getting ready for M-Wave, but it'll be back up a week after we get back from M-Wave.
You tore it down. What are you talking about? What is it, like a Officina
had
Acustica type of thing?
Well, we had a turn-off processor in there. We wanted to bring that to the show.
Oh, got you. Yeah.
We had a couple of 18 channels worth of amplification. That was like, instead of rebuilding the amps and taking brand new ones, we'll just the theater's going to be out of commission without the turn-off anyway, so might as well just take the amps with it and save us some work.
Did what amps you got? Are you bringing to that show?
Yeah, just the alpha amps that we make. So we got, I think we're going to have about 28 channels worth. Because we're doing a fully active bed layer and then about 4 ATMOS channels.
What speakers you guys bringing?
So we're going to bring the big SVTRSs that Gene has for the
Full
front
stack.
two. We're going to do an 831 for the center behind the screen. We got a 821 on walls for the side and surrounds, and then for the rear backs, we're doing the new SFTRs, which is the baby brother to the SVTR, and then we're doing our new angled 61s for the Atmos channels. So
You call it baby brother, but it's still a substantial speaker.
it is very much a substantial speaker. I call it the baby brother because it's just physically smaller.
Well, the SVTRs are just Godzilla, you know?
Yep, pretty much.
How tall are
And
those?
The SVTRs,
Yeah.
the full stack with the sub on top is 7.5 feet tall.
7.5.
Wow, is that tall? Jeez.
Yeah.
That's what
And
Gene
then-
has, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
How tall is Gene's ceilings?
10
it's got
foot.
9 or
10
is it 10?
feet? Oh, okay.
I have the half stack. I don't have the top bass module on it.
Psst,
It's
lame.
still monstrous, though.
Yeah. Yeah. But we will be showcasing the 21 inch at that show, so it'll be a fun listen.
You only brought one? Did you? Curious why you guys didn't bring the dual 21s.
We go.
I'm just saying because I know Sendo's going to be there. I mean, I would think they'd
Yeah.
at least like.
Well,
Really
we're gonna
compete, you know what I mean?
have the 121, and then we're gonna have 12 12s. So we'll have plenty of bass.
Okay.
Yeah, each dual 12
won't be lacking.
equals the output of an 18. So.
Yeah.
Running off of an Evo 150.
Yeah, it might go pop. It's good. It ain't that good.
Yeah, we'll have plenty of in hand.
But yeah, I can't wait to listen to test out your amps because right now I've got the Trinov and the Mac amps, and then I like to compare them with the RBH amps.
Yeah. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
You'll be shocked.
Hey, you think so? Those Mac. I can't sell those McIntosh amps. I don't know what's going on here. I've been trying to sell those for like fucking 2 years.
Really?
Anybody that wants to buy some Macintosh, not that there's anything wrong with the Macintosh amps. I got them because they look awesome. Nobody's got a better looking amp than Macintosh. Let's be real. So if you guys want like the best looking amps, I will sell you my two amps. I got a 7 and a 5 channel amp. Just email me. SpareChangeReviews@gmail.com. I'll give you a great price on them. I don't think I've really used them in like 3 years, except to power them on and look at the blue light glow. But yeah, it's fucking like brand new. Just saying. Email me. So before we get out of here, let's to keep on the music topic here, which we only spoke about for like 15 minutes. What have you guys been bumping in the cars that you also bump at your house? Like, just some tunes. Listen, don't give us some thought provoking meaning behind it. Just like what's the normal stuff you guys listen to that you think?
Where are we going to start at? Kenny, are we starting with?
Don't matter, whoever. Just jump in.
Yeah. Just depends on my mood. I'll listen to anything from like cinematic music to jazz to electronic. But some of the music I've been really enjoying lately. My favorite jazz artist is Brian Culbertson. He mixes in a little electronic with smooth jazz, and it's just killer. One of his songs, I can't remember the name of it. I'll look it up right now. Just Let Go by Brian Culbertson. It's got some pretty killer infrasonic energy in that song. So if you've got some subs that can produce some infrasonics, that's got some couple notes that'll rock your world. So,
Listen, I don't have a refined taste whatsoever. Listen, like I said, man, I rock out with the Kanye West stuff all the time. The 808s and heartbreaks, whatever it's called. That boom, 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 boom. It just drone. It just hits and it just drones and it hits and the whole song. I love that song. I love it. I love it in the car. Sounds better in the car because I just got 115 in there. in the little cab of my Bronco, two-door Bronco, and it just like rocks in there. I rock that song all the time. I got a little 80s playlist that I kick all the time, you know, some Aha. I put that whoop, there it is, that goes off all the time in the car. Listen, man, I'm a simple guy. I throw some Usher in there. There might be some Taylor Swift once in a while. I tried to get into the car. What is it called? The Beyonce country album.
Yeah, I don't like the whole album, but I do like that.
There's like that one song. It's catchy.
It's not really a country album. It's
Billie Eilish came out with a new song or a new album. She's got a couple good beats on there.
She comes out with a new album every 6 months.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good album though. I mean, it's just her and her brother. I think I'm totally impressed with those two. It's a brother sister duo that just cranks out shit in their house.
Listen to London Grammar. I love their music.
Yeah.
London country from Nelly, Country Grammar. Yeah.
Oh, London.
That's a classic. What happened? Whatever happened to Nelly?
I am. See, I was listening to short.
I think preacher type guy, isn't he now? Nelly? Isn't that what happened to him?
I think that's Mace.
Yeah, there's several of them now.
P. Diddy. Oh yeah, I think wasn't DMX like a preacher or something like that before he died? A lot of those guys went like religious. Yeah.
That new Eminem track is pretty dope.
Yeah.
Background, I love that.
Oh yeah, he put his kids in there too. His kids are kind of famous now. Yeah, she's got like a podcast or something.
Really?
Yeah, she's a.
Yeah, Eminem's really talented, man. There's so much good music, you know. Really having Tidal or Qobuz or I've been listening to more Qobuz lately than anything, but HD, Amazon HD, Apple lossless. I mean, it's awesome to be able to just have everything. It really is.
Yeah. What are you rocking in the car, Don? What are you rocking in the car, Don?
I listen to audiobooks in the car, dude. Sorry.
Jesus. Hold on. Do you got? What about you, Steve? What do you got?
Little Blink 182.
Yeah, I was listening to that.
Oh, you know that fired up
Yeah.
Pussycat Dolls, don't you?
UFOs do good.
Yeah.
Little bit of Brian Ferry too was on my list here today. More Teddy Swims, right? Little Usher, OMG, right?
Oh,
And, Black Eyed Peas,
Yeah.
and then a few songs here by Nelly Furtado.
Yeah. She's trying to make a comeback. She's trying to make a comeback. Yeah.
You ever listen to Lord?
You wonder how in the heck it could have died so fast for her, but I mean, it's 25 years old, that album, right?
Yeah.
Well, I got a little Mary J. Blige in here.
Yeah.
Some Nelly. Mm-hmm. And what else here? We got more Black Eyed Peas. And, look at this. Little David Allan Coe for the countryside.
Oh, boy.
But it was not really a country song by David Allan Coe.
Yeah, we can move on.
Oh, and then a little bit of a band that nobody's ever heard of here. It's called Fist.
Fist?
Band that was a hard rock and roll band.
Fist or Fisk?
Fist. Grew up in Canada, or that they were a Canadian band. So I used to go and listen to them at a bar all the time.
Do you guys have systems in your cars?
JBL Premium from Toyota.
You guys just go in stock. Everybody's got stock.
Oh, dude, I started in car audio. I've had raging systems in cars over the years. I just can't afford. I'd like to do a Focal and JL audio setup, but that's low on the priority list.
Well, and now that cars are coming with, Lexicon, Levinson and stuff, right? So although it's not perfection, but it's better, right?
It's better. It's okay.
They've gotten a lot car audio systems have gotten way better compared to what they used to be.
I've got jail audio in my car. I got jail audio in my Bronco. I went aftermarket with that, the Audison. You know, you guys are not real music fans, I guess.
Yeah, it's not like I listen to music every single day constantly. When I get in a car, I'm trying to fill my brain.
With
You know,
what?
I have a Genesis, and that lexicon system in it. I mean, it's pretty darn good. You know, and the bass is fantastic. Probably, I had a BMW X7 before that, and it was a
Yeah.
decent sounding
You went from a
system and had a
BMW to
couple
a
subs
Hyundai?
in it, right?
What
I
are you
think
trying
this
to say?
is the Bolton way bass wise.
What are you trying to say?
It's not a Hyundai, it's a Genesis.
Yeah,
Yo, they
that
just came
too.
out with the Genesis. Like, it's like 110 grand for the new Genesis. Have you
Genesis
seen
are
that?
actually
Steve?
dope. They're
Yeah.
like Maybach-like for them.
Yeah.
I mean, not cheap, but they're not 400 grand.
A cheap Maybach for 110 grand. But
It's a
yeah,
fun car to
continue.
drive. And I can't afford the kind of stuff that Don drives, so it's just I got to do what
Yeah,
I
I drive
can.
a freaking Forerunner. Yeah, you can.
For what year, Don?
Huh?
What year is your forward?
1978.
Kenny, what you got? What you got in your car?
No, just it's a stock, but it's an Infinity system, so it's better than the last car I had.
What you got? A Lexus?
It's a Hyundai.
Oh, look at that! You and Steve must be in the industry vehicles.
No,
Yeah.
I focus all my attention on home audio. I love sitting down and listening. To me, if you're going to do car audio, you got to do it. You got to go all out and do the isolation, damping material. So to eliminate road noise, if you're going to do car audio, you got to do all of that. And I just haven't invested.
Damn, I miss I did.
And I only drive cars for 2 years, maybe. Once I get 15 or 20,000 miles on them, I get rid of them because I don't know.
Okay.
I get bored fast. I
Fancy.
guess I don't.
Fancy guy over here.
Kind of got to do that.
Well, that's not fan. Then I never have to buy tires, right?
I've had 12 cars and not bought a single tire. Got Forerunners because they never break.
Well, I did that. I did the Dynamat stuff in my car, and then did the JLs, and the thing I hate about these modern cars is you can't swap out the head units anymore. They're all like intertwined with the inner workings of the car and the lights and the turn signals and everything. It's like ignition. It's like you can't swap them out. It's like the stupidest thing.
Everything has to
They got
go
ignition tied to the radio?
Yeah, it's like you can't even start your car if you take the radio out.
Huh?
Well, I guess you're
Yeah,
not into the
nothing
whole
works.
car audio thing.
As soon as you take that radio out, right?
Yeah, it's like the brand of the car is the radio.
Yeah.
That's where everything goes there.
Years of my life I've lived for car audio. Now I'm like, I wish I could turn that shit down. I'm that guy. I'm like, then I catch myself like, what are you doing, dude? Shut up. You were that guy.
All right, let's get off here. Thanks, guys, for watching. You guys can go check out Steve and the Cambridge group over at cambridgeaudio.com. Kenny at RBH Sound. Listen, I'm going to be working on the home theater tour soon. It's been waiting to get this 21-inch before I shoot this video. Apparently, they've got other obligations. They got like Axpona. They had this like the show or whatever. Now they got M-Wave. So it's like Shane's the last stop on this 21-inch tour to make its video debut. But yeah, go to rbh.com, rbhsound.com, or rbhaudio.com. One of the two. rbhsound.com. And then Digital Don, you can be found here on Shane Lee's channel. Of course, like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Next week, I think we're gonna have maybe Rune on.